All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of the ERG Movement Podcast. For those who don't know, my name's Maceo. I use she, her pronouns, and I go by the ERG Homegirl on LinkedIn. And I also lead the ERG Movement. I'm literally a nerd on all things ERGs. But today is not about me. Today, we have a very special guest. We go way back at this point,
We do.
Daniel Stokes. And Daniel, give yourself an intro.
If I had to, I'd be like Daniel Stokes, he, him, his pronouns, culture and events curator. That is my vibe. That's what I've been doing with my career. And yeah, I think I'm a badass.
And you've been killing it too. You've been at some really big companies doing this culture event space type work. And even though it wasn't always ERG directly, it obviously is always ERG adjacent then.
Yeah. All my work has been tied pretty much to employee resource groups and just really giving people a space to feel seen and feel heard.
Okay. Well then give us the story then. What was like your first touch point with ERGs and how has that relationship with ERGs changed over time since?
So I guess I'll like reverse. So I started off like as a traditional event planner. I've always loved planning things, even in my personal life. So I was just like, I definitely want to go to school, get my focus on event planning. Well, it was PR because I thought that's what you did, but no, I hate writing. And I switched to hospitality with a focus on event planning. And then I actually got an internship working at MTV my junior year of college. And so, like, literally going from never working at an event in my life to working at like a big Nickelodeon, MTV, Comedy Central event. This little boy who knew nothing about events to like falling in love with them. So yeah, I started off traditionally doing events, but then I really saw how miserable people were. Like people who, I mean, this was my early 20s, people who were like in their 30s, 40s, like miserable, traveling all the time, staying up till like 5 a.m. Cause like when an event ends, the people at the event get to leave, but the people who planned it don't. I made a pivot to more internal events and programs, still working with all the different networks at the MTV Viacom umbrella, but really making it feel more employee connected. So taking what it is that I love to do, but then applying it to these ERGs was kind of when I had my first touch point with them. And that's just like the best of both worlds.
I think that you just made such a good point. A lot of ERG things are events in the space, but it's what piece of advice would you give when it comes to making people feel connected at these events? Because it's different than just throwing an event.
For me, I feel like I should probably have a master's in marketing or something because I feel the core of what I do is marketing, both internally and externally. And so I like to take the approach of how can we make sure that our programs and our programming touches every touch point of the employee life cycle? So that's like, I want someone to see something that I've posted online about an event or program and then want to then apply at the company that I'm working at. And then when they get into that company, they hear about, ERGs or the work that I'm doing around culture in onboarding. And then when they're like settled in and ready to kind of like really tap into getting involved, they know that they can come to me or my programs. And then it makes them want to stay and build community. And then also when they are leaving, when they're giving that exit interview, they say, oh, Daniel's programs were the bombs. And all of that encompasses so many different variables. So like, if there is an external marketing or event team, like connecting with them, seeing how you can like tie in the flyers that you're creating, the type of events or people that you're tapping into, and then tapping into recruiting and finding out how they can get involved in your events and just making sure that you can then work with the social media team to really get your name out there with telling your story with, through employer branding opportunities. So that's kind of how I look at it all. If people are just like, oh my God, you just like plan events. We're like, no, it's a whole encompassing like beast that not everyone can do
And marketing is truly at the root of it, like you said, because
at
it's
the root.
like from the beginning, how are you even promoting it internally? Then when you think about it, like people who are in the company, there's customer experience, which is still an
Mhm.
aspect of marketing, making sure that they're having a good experience as an employee. And then, like you said, even after they leave, they would still be talking about the company and still marketing, even when you're not there.
Exactly.
What's an event that you helped bring to life or that you brought to life that you feel like is one of those types of events that still has people talking about the company?
Huh. Honestly, I will say when I worked at Facebook, one of the aspects of my role was planning like our large holiday and summer parties. And again, going back to the marketing aspect, I knew for sure that I didn't want to just send an invitation on Workplace. Like I made sure I had enough budget in my budget to film a commercial because people are gonna take that in over just like, "Oh, we're having a summer party, cool, cool." No, you give them something that they can like that gives them the theme and the vibe. And
Mm.
the theme was like Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass type, but like on a New York rooftop. And then even at the event, I had a videographer who recorded a bunch of content to make like a 3-minute trailer. And when I posted that, like the entire company was talking about this event. And actually, after people saw that, people were like, "Oh crap, like the next time New York throws a party, we need to just go there instead of staying in our cities," because we would do these events in all of our major hubs. And it's like, I mean, today I still have friends who I met while working there, and they're just like, "Man, like that party that you threw." Even the person who was like my head production person from the production company we hired, we're actually still friends. He's like, "Man, that was a beast of a party, but like you killed it." That was my first time of like on a larger scale, just realizing, yes, you can have an event, but like you need to be able to take its elements and then make them last long because
Mhm.
people in finance are just going to think you're throwing a party. And they're just like, well, why do we have this? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? Because it's all connected. And so I want to be able to have that content to really be able to use and share and also tell the story because I could talk about it all day. I can show you outside of just a picture, oh, like it's sold. And then I have that content for the rest of my life where I could be like, hey, like this is the type of the work that I've done. And then I started doing that, like hiring videographers at like hackathons that I would do. Just because like we're investing all this money into getting these people to come to this event, spending all this money on catering, getting some decor, like let's show it off. Like let's rad. Just really like talk your talk.
I hope that any ERG leader that's listening to this really heard that piece in terms of how content helps to keep an event alive even
Keep it
long after it
keep
ends.
it alive, and it's like all like, I get so frustrated when my leads, like, have an event, and I'm like, "Did you take a photo?" Or if they were at an offsite and they were like, "Oh, well, we gathered all the Black Hat members that were at this offsite. Did you take a photo? Did you record something?" "Oh, no, we forgot." I get so mad because 'cause I'm just like, "Cool," because now we have nothing to show for it. Like,
Mhm.
that's awesome. I love that, and, like, I know sometimes people are probably like, "Well, we want it to be, like, authentic," and I'm like, "Oh, I totally get that," but, like, you already hung out. You have that authentic connection, but, I mean, if I'm keeping it 100, like, this is my job. Like, obviously, what I'm doing is working because I'm encouraging people when they're doing these things to gather, hang out, but, like, we need to show something for it.
That takes planning too, because even with that big event that you said, you did a commercial, which means before the event happened.
Mhm.
So that took planning, but even to have someone there and for them to record like the highlights of this event, that takes prep as well.
I've worked with like a few different videographers on a couple of projects. So I come with my asks and like give you the vision. I will make a shot list, like tell you the story that I'm trying to tell. You have to kind of know what it is that you want to capture. It seems so silly, but take a dope video of the food that we had. Catering is so expensive and it's gone in a heartbeat. So like let's show it off. And then who knows what you can use that footage for years to come of like this is what we've done. It's what we've created as a company, as a program.
And you answered my next question with that too, which is perfect in terms of how to best set up that person for success. But having a shot list, this also kind of means that you have to know what you want out of the event.
Mhm.
You have to have that event vision to be able to
Yeah.
help someone else.
That's why I go back to like the entire employee life cycle. And it's just like, for me, I think about it as a member of the Black and queer community, like I know that there are very few people who look and are like me. So when I am thinking about this content that I'm creating, I'm thinking about that person that is maybe at the company that doesn't know that this group exists, this collective exists, but then also again, those people externally. So it's like, I know I want to showcase certain things. I also know that I want to uplift people who maybe don't usually get the spotlight to be able to show that, like, yes, I know that me, Daniel Stokes, and I'm a Black person at whatever company I'm at. I don't want all the shine on me. It's like you see me, you hear me all the time. Let me uplift someone else. It's like, maybe we don't do the recruiter because they're always in meetings with different people across the orgs. Maybe we find someone who's more shy and reserved, but has a great story to tell. So like those are things I'm always looking for. Having conversation with my community leads or people in general. I'm just like, oh, I had a meeting with this person. They were so dope. Let's find a platform for them.
I love that, especially throwing events with the idea of who you're trying to reach as well
Mm.
and who you're trying to speak to versus just trying to generalize it. And I think really your brain as someone who's in events and is like trying to make a great experience for people is able to like identify those like that could be so cool if you all just did
Oh,
that.
it's funny. I try not to come in like do this, that, and a third. It's kind of like a dictatorship, and I'm not a dictator. But it's also like I don't want to just spoon feed people. I'm just kind of like something that you actually taught me is just setting people up for success by like, giving them an outline. And something that I like took from you is like I will give you the tools that say, here are 3 easy ways you can engage with your community. I like giving a framework. These are the ways you can engage. Then you can't get mad if people don't come to your events. It's like, well, you're not promoting, you're not building that consistent cadence. And it is so easy. It is, and like I tell people, I'm like, it could be as easy as you once a week posting a news article that is tied to your community, or you think something that your community would like, discussing it. And like that itself is going to build so much connection when they do see each other, like, oh my goodness, I remember we were talking about that article. It's so simple, but it's like you have to work at it. You have to put in the effort.
I'm curious too. I know in the past you worked like on like the office. I don't know what you would call it, but like with offices as well. How that works with an ERG or how that office manager, um,
Mhm.
office experience team could be leveraging the ERG or vice versa.
Oh, completely. Like an easy win for people who are specifically surrounded by workplace. Obviously, I mean, depending on the company, workplace experience, workplace as a team is usually one titled wrong or encompassing multiple aspects. And so it's like, obviously you probably deal with, the building manager and security and like maybe if you have like a front desk reception, but also like you're the person that is probably on site or on site a lot, seeing and being in person at these places. And so it's kind of like if you're in the offices, if you're able to have that kind of context, that lens, you can then leverage communities to host events within those spaces. I know a lot of companies are trying to get people back in the office. We are a remote first company currently, but we do have some offices slash WeWorks and some hubs, and that's something that we're moving towards, and that's being able to host some of our programs within the office. But that means me as an individual, I have to build and develop a relationship with our workplace team. And also, what if they want to start looking for a new office? They need to be able to trust you and have that relationship with you to be like, what are the things that you want and need in an office space? Like if someone came to me right now, like, what do you want in an office space? A giant kitchen, potentially a large enough space that can flex as like an auditorium slash event space slash like, working pods. If there's a private rooftop, I mean, in New York, that's like real estate, just like those types of things that you really want to think about when going into a space. Again, that's all about leveraging those relationships and having those conversations. Like I speak to my workplace team all the time, and I'm just like, oh, like let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns, because I will.
Now, you were in the culture office experience slash ERG space before COVID. So I'm
Good.
the change has been or the changes that you've seen?
Wow. COVID was rough. As someone who all my work has been so in person, so personal, so connection based, the fact that people want that in person interaction so badly. It doesn't have to be every day, it doesn't have to be every month, but you have to save space to let people gather. You have to, because it makes it all worth it. It makes all the blood, sweat, and maybe tears. No, no tears. I'm past that phase. Career. Yeah, it just makes it worth it.
Now, even today, there is still a good portion of things happen virtually.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how you keep people then engaged and like beyond that Zoom fatigue.
So I am a fan of pre-recorded content. Like I every program that we did last year for our heritage months was pre-recorded. I because if I'm gonna like I want to be able to create that seamless experience where you feel like you're watching something that's of high value. Because if it feels high value, people are gonna pay attention. Like I don't know how many Zoom panels I've been on, like, where I've gone to watch, where I'm just like, "Girl, I'm just here. I'm about to go make my lunch. I'm turning my camera off, mute. I'm here to support my homies." Like, no, but my programs last year, we pre-recorded interviews, pre-recorded panels. It makes people feel way more comfortable like get the opportunity to like make mistakes and know that they won't be made to look silly or stupid. There's not that awkward like, oh, Jim's Wi-Fi sucks today, or like he froze, or his internet isn't working. It just allows people to kind of sit back, relax, give 45 minutes of their time, and then we're done. It's a game changer. Obviously, then that means that there's more planning that has to go in ahead of time. It means you have to be a little bit more proactive, but it just allows for, I think, a more cohesive and well put together virtual program. Or
Now, that being said, if you're pre-recording content, that means that it also has to be edited,
Mhm.
probably. Which, I mean, so do you do the editing? Do you work with a team within your company?
So I will say it's a mixture of both. I think, obviously, given like the world we're in right now, we're being very budget conscious. But then that has pushed me. We had like one heritage month of programming left, and we knew we weren't going to be able to spend the money that we spent on a videographer editing everything together. So I literally got on Zoom with everyone, recorded everything with them, and then stitched it together myself, taught myself. Canva is a lifesaver. Like, one, yay for them being women owned, but I literally created 3 different programs, all like 30 minutes each of pre-recorded content on Canva.
Mhm. I'm a big Canva fan too. And like you said, we're trying to be frugal around here.
Exactly, and it's like, honestly, like but then that also shows that, like, you're resourceful and, like also, I've never edited anything in my life, so it was just like it just gave me something new and fun to, like, do, and, like, after, like, the 2nd video, I was like, "Oh, I got this, I got" so, like, I know that I am then able to you know, have cost saving, but then also still kind of have like that high level production value, like putting music in there and like transitions and I'm probably not going to win an Oscar.
I mean, y'all have some really high quality videos.
Well, some of the was yeah, so it's a mixture. It's a mixture.
Even then, I was looking at the Black History Month videos that you all just put out, and I'm like,
Yeah. That
"Oh,
was
fire."
that was an I just wrote and like produced it.
I was gonna ask about that too, because I saw you specifically say, "I produced this." What does producing entail for a video project?
So I'll just use the Black History Month example. So I knew that I wanted to start y- getting content that tells the story of each of our communities. And so we landed on the theme inspire the next. And so it's like, you know, we want to inspire the next Black insert your title. And so I basically sat down and kind of thought, like, what do I want to accomplish? And I was like, I want to showcase Black people who work in tech at this company. I want to give you a diverse slate of individuals. And then I started looking to see like who lives in New York. I knew there were like 5 of us. And so I was like, all right, and one person in legal, one's an engineer, one's a recruiter, another one's in marketing. I'm in my role. I was like, okay, we have 5 people, diverse slate. What I want. So then I built out the questions that I would ask them and kind of like the look and feel with my videographer. And then once we got all the content, then I had to go through and watch every video and pull out like a 10-second clip here, a 15-second clip here, a 4-second clip here, like these seconds to this second, start with this word and with this word, which actually didn't take me as long as I thought it would. I think because I sat in on all the interviews, because I was the one interviewing them off camera, I knew what people had said. Yeah. And then, sending all the feedback to the videographer, coming back, making changes, telling them to move different clips around. And yeah, so that's kind of how I see me producing it. But then also like I'm kind of writing, if there's any scripting in some programs or videos, I'm writing that out. But I would say probably about I write 99% of the content.
Wow. And is your videographer in-house or are you working with
No,
a
he's external.
See, I think a lot of people in the ERG space don't leverage external people enough. And they feel like that if it's not in-house with their design team, it's like, oh, our hands are tied. We can't do anything.
Yeah, and then an easy fix for that, ask them for a style guide. Go to your design team and say, "Hey, we obviously know." I mean, like, I'm obviously, ERG stuff is like low on the totem pole for the design team. So it's like, give me your style guide. That way I can then upload it to my brand kit on Canva. I have the exact colors, the exact font. We have templates, and that way then I can take what we already have and just make sure it's staying within those brand guidelines. Because it's you're always gonna, again, be that low priority, and so you just have to find ways around it and not get discouraged. If I had $1 every time I in a very timely manner with my design team, submitted their brief, and it went on Asana or whatever they use, and then 3 weeks later, we have a meeting, and then they say, "I don't think it's gonna be within." Now that's 3 weeks that I wasted when I could have been making, flyers for 3 months worth of events in those 3 weeks. So, just you guys have to learn to, like, take it in your own hands and, like, not get discouraged. But there are ways to still make sure it's still high quality. So, and then that way I don't then get yelled at by brand because like, well, you didn't, it's not within our brand guidelines. I can't be like, well, you said you were busy. Like,
Mhm.
okay, but it's still not in our brand guidelines. Okay, cool. I know you're busy. Give me the stuff that's within our brand guidelines so I know that it's going to be good.
Now, you have a finished video. Where does it go so that people can watch it? Because I think a lot of ERG leaders are like, well, we could do pre-recorded content, but are people even going to be watching it the same? Or do you track how many people watch?
So
Curious.
we have an internal system, and so our vendor sends me the video, and I just upload it, and then like the next day I'll do a post in like one of our main channels and say, hey, if you couldn't attend yesterday's event, here's the link to rewatch it if you want to. And you're allowed to see like how many views you get and stuff on that.
I love the creativity of you all's events. Like, I don't think
Thank
I've heard
you.
anyone doing a virtual ball or a Women's History Month comedy show. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't put 2 things together.
Why? Because I think like for me, and that's just how my brain works. I'm like, you know, women in comedy are always so looked down upon, or like the second person they think of for the role or the position. And so it's like, how many times do women in the corporate space feel that? And so it's like, how can we acknowledge that, celebrate women, but then do it in like a very fun, non-traditional way?
Mhm, and it went well. I
Oh,
think
it was so much fun, and, like, literally all I did was I found 3 female comedians on Instagram. They all happen to know each other because 'cause they all live in New York, and just was, "Okay, would love for y'all to do this," like, closed mouths never get fed, like, the worst someone can do is say no or leave me on red. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, they aren't paying my bills. I am. So
Yeah. And I think you just brought up another great point, even how you found them on Instagram. I'm very much like that too, where I'm resourceful. I'm not just looking up teambuilder.com and stuff
oh
like
my
that.
God.
I want real I really wanted to get in touch with like real people. I hate to say it like that,
Real
but
people. I hate when there's something that's like an inquiry form. Inquiry forms turn me off. I'm like, nope, bye.
mhm. That's when they're gonna get back to you. And then it's like super expensive typically. So
Mhm.
that also plays into like the frugal piece of it as well. Curious, what are some other ways that you help the ERGs to find people or find events or vendors and things like that to work with?
Yeah, do like CTAs within call to actions for anyone within your community. It's like, and even something that we're exploring, it's like, we obviously want to keep doing this type of work, but maybe we have someone internally who loves videography. And it's like, maybe we could utilize them to help us, shoot some of our content or like, if people are, you know, shooting content, like how can I best support them? For Women's History Month, I created a document that was just like some tips and tricks on how to like best shoot self content. And I sent it to like two videographer friends. They're like, this is perfect. Like just thinking about how you can utilize your own self or people within the community and their own skills to like flex. And I know people who like love to cook. So I'm like, okay, if I ever want a cooking event, I know I can tap into those people. Like it seems but you just have to do the work of knowing and researching the company that you work at and the people who work at that company. And that's like through that relationship building, but also like reading the Slack messages that go on in their community. I think something that program leads probably fail at is not reading what's actually going on in their the other community groups.
It's a very valid point because with those conversations, you can learn so much about people.
Much about people. You can learn so much from like a silly thread within Slack. It's like, oh, wait, I didn't know you played that video game. Oh, I didn't know you were from there. I didn't know you liked this. And it's just like you retain that information because it's going to come up to be a resourceful piece of information later down the line.
Yep. What would you say has been like your biggest learning doing the work that you do, but also how that pertains to ERGs?
Yeah, I think biggest learning and probably the hardest thing I ever like had to like come to terms with this work is like you're never ever going to please everyone. You're never going to have 100% participation in any of your programs. At the end of the day, there are just a lot of people who do not care. They truly do not care because they don't know how effective it is, or maybe it just isn't for them. The purpose of these groups is to create an environment where people who don't usually feel seen or heard. And so it was probably 2018. I had the revelation that like it doesn't matter if 60 people come into my event or six. As long as I know that those six people got something out of it, like then I am doing my job. There are so many factors in this work that you cannot control. You know, a team meeting may come up, a project may get moved, an offsite may get moved, you know, people may be just like, burnt out. But as long as there's at least one person that could say, "Oh my goodness, like I learned something from that. I had something from for that." I went to that mixology class and I was able to de-stress for like 30 minutes and then you realize why I did choose this company, why I like being here.
I love that. That is so
Yeah.
big. I mean, how would you like to close us? What's like your bar that you want to leave?
I think, you know, this work is important. This work is hard, but this work is fun. And I think people in this environment, especially now that companies are trying to start investing in this and really, elevate, employer resource groups, try everything at least once because you never know what's going to stick. Think about your work. You are more than just a program lead. You are a marketer. You're an event planner. you are an ops person, you are finance because you're managing and tracking budgets. You are so much more than what someone who doesn't understand and the lack of weight they put on your work, and just like have fun because y- the world is always going to be in shambles.
You made so many great points. Like I said, there's gonna have to be a part two. Even just the things that you closed on, part of you really wants to ramble about. Yeah, it's more than just general diversity and it doesn't mean anything. Like you said, there's marketing, there's finance. And I always talk about how ERG programs should operate like a business
Yes,
enterprise.
that is so true.
So many people are missing that even in the space, unfortunately. But trying to change this in the ERG movement. So
Yeah.
appreciate you for joining us. Here we have dope people who come on, they tell us about their experience with ERGs, and together we're trying to make ERGs move forward. So thank
Yes.
you to have you.
Thanks for having me.